Hello everyone, in this video we are going to discuss about one of the Selenium 4 feature called Relative Locators. And this concept is very useful whenever it is very difficult to identify the XPath or CSS of any particular element, but you are able to identify its nearby element. Selenium was making use of the JavaScript method called getBoundingClientReact and was able to identify the relative position of any element using the other element's location. Above, below, left of, right of are the four major methods present inside relative locator class, which are useful for locating the elements relatively. Let's see this practically using facebook.com. So let me go to Eclipse. So here I have a pom.xml with Selenium Java and WebDriver Manager to invoke the browser and do the setup. So let me start writing the code. We can use WebDriver Manager to set up the Chrome driver. So WebDriver Manager dot Chrome driver dot setup. So this will set up the Chrome driver for us. Now we need to create an object for WebDriver. So WebDriver, which is coming from Selenium, driver equal to new Chrome driver. This will invoke the Chrome driver for us. So then we need to get the URL using driver.get. So we can use driver.get and we can give URL as facebook.com. Just pass the value of facebook.com. Let me do the maximize using driver.manage.window.maximize. So this line will maximize the browser for us. So this is all a basic setup. Let's run and see whether it's working or not. It should able to open browser and open the URL and maximize the browser. Let's wait. Yeah, it's opened the Chrome browser, opening the facebook.com URL and maximized the browser. Let's inspect the email element. So here we can able to see, we can able to identify the email element uniquely with its ID, as well as for the password. If we observe the password, even this having a ID, and we can able to identify this as well. But our goal here is to learn about relative locators, right? So just imagine we are not able to identify the email element, so we'll make use of the password element and we'll locate the email element. For that, let's define a variable called as email locator using by. So email locator, so here we need to make use of the relative locator class which is present inside the Selenium 4. So we'll use relative locator, the class dot, we'll use with as one more method. So relative locator dot with, and here we need to provide by using which we want to identify that element. Let's give tag name and give it as an input, because like the element, if we see here, the email element is a input field. If we inspect it, it is having a tag called input. So I want to identify with input tag of that element, so we can give with input as a tag name here, and here we can make use of the method like above, below, other things. So the email field is above the password field, so I'm using the above method. And again, here we need to give the locator for the password field because we are identifying the email locator with the help of the password. So the ID of password is pass, so I'm just passing the value of ID. So this way we can able to identify the email locator using the password locator. Now we can use driver.find element and we can pass the value of email locator. So driver.find element and we have to pass email locator and we need to send the keys. Let's send some random email. Now let's define one more element for the password locator And now we will make use of the below method, which is present inside the relative locator class again. So password locator, and we can make use of relative locator dot, and with we need to pass the any value of the password field. So we'll just pass the tag name, which is nothing but input of the password field. So the email is the id for the email field. So we will make use of email and the tag name input, and we will identify the password field. So now the password is below the email field. So here we can give by dot tag name, and we can pass the value as a input, and dot we can use below method now because the password is below email field. So here we can give id and pass the id as email. So then we can again use driver.find elements, and when we can use the sand keys method. So driver.find element, we can pass password locator dot send keys. So we can send some any random password just to check whether it is working or not. So we have seen the above and below methods. Now let's save and run as a Java application. So now it should be able to enter both username and password into the fields. See, it has successfully entered both email address and password into the Facebook page. So now, like using this above as well as the below methods, we are able to identify the elements. Like if some element is very difficult to identify using XPath or CSS, we can make use of these methods and we can able to achieve the automation. So let's go to the page again. So as to see the other two methods, we need to go to the create account page. Let me inspect the create account. So as to click on it. So let's inspect this, which is present inside this div. So let's expand the div. So inside that we can able to see, like we can able to identify using the test data id. Like just make use of that. Let me copy that. So we can form a CSS selector using that. So we can use the tag name a and the value and the attribute value. So this itself a CSS, just replace double quotes with single quotes and use it in our code. So we can directly define using by, like sign up locator. We can now directly use the method by, because we don't want to use relative locator class. So by.css selector, and we can give the value which we have copied. Then again it's simple, drive.find element, pass the locator and do the click. So this will open as the new page where we can use the left of right of, because here if we see like first name and last surname, if we see first name and surname, these two are side by side, so we can use left of and right of methods. So for that purpose we came to this space. So we can identify these elements uniquely with name attribute. Let's identify the first name using the name attribute, and we'll enter the text into the surname. So just copy the name attribute and form a CSS. So inside the square brackets we just need to pass attribute and its value, which will be the CSS selector. So this is the CSS selector for the first name. But what we will do, we will enter text into the surname. So let's go to the code editor and define a variable for the surname. We can give surname or a last name. So last name locator, which is equal to, again we need to make use of relative locator class. So just use relative locator class dot with, and we have to pass the tag name of surname. So let's see what is the tag name of surname, which is nothing but a input. So using the tag name and the locator of the first name, so let's pass tag name as input dot, we have to use the method. What we need to use here, we are entering text into surname, so which is to the right of, so we can see the right of. So what to the right? For the right of first name locator. So here we can pass the CSS locator which we have created for the first name. So just go to the browser and copy the locator that we have formed for the first name and pass it to the method, which is a right of method. So now again same, we can make use of the driver.find element and we'll pass the locator, last name locator, and we will send some text into it. So let's send some text to see whether it is working or not. So let's pass as L name. So similarly we can create the locator for the first name as well. So first name locator, which is equal to again relative locator class. So relative locator dot with and the tag name of first name locator, so which is also nothing but an input. Let's check. So the input of the, so the tag name of the first name is also an input. We can pass the value as input dot. Now we can make use of the left of method because it is left to the surname, so you can use left of. And now here we need to pass the CSS or any locator of the last name, so we can pass by.css selector and we have to pass the CSS selector of the surname. Let's create the CSS selector for the surname. So here we can use name equal to last name, so we can use this CSS selector to identify the first name. So just copy and paste it here. Again similar steps, driver.find element and we will pass the first name locator and dot send keys. We can send any keys. Let's send f name. Let's add some thread.sleep to wait for some time to the page to load and run as a Java application. So it has opened the browser, it entering the username and password, clicked on the sign up. It waited for the time that we have given and it has successfully entered first name and last name as well by making use of the four methods, left of, right of, and the below and above methods. Yeah, this is how we can make use of the relative locator class and its methods. Thanks for watching the video. Please do like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.